Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind. Let me ask you guys a question. When's the last time you saw or heard a story of a Democrat politician being harassed, physically intimidated, or assaulted? When's the last time you saw a major viral headline showing an extreme, crazed Republican voter or MAGA extremist getting arrested for threatening a politician? I seem to remember maybe a couple examples over the last 6 years or so, but so vague, so few and far between that they don't really stick, and in many cases the evidence seems inconclusive at best. But if we're talking about the same phenomenon, just switch the political parties, it's actually non-stop. And so let's have a conversation about extremism, shall we, leftoids? How many assassination attempts? How many assaults or threats of violence is it going to take for you to realize that you are on the side of political extremism? How many is it going to take? Hey, remember that Canadian woman who sent poison to the White House when Donald Trump was president? Some weird hope that she'd send a letter to the White House and that the president would open it directly, only to be poisoned. Yeah, I remember that. Remember that time where Rand Paul was assaulted outside his home by a crazed lunatic neighbor? Yeah, I remember that. Remember that time where a innocent Trump supporter, a Patriot Prayer member, was indiscriminately gunned down in the streets of Portland? Yeah, I remember that. Remember that time where an individual was arrested in possession of multiple deadly weapons outside of Justice Kavanaugh's home, with supposedly the explicit intent of, well, harming the man and his family? Well, those are just a couple examples, and that really just scratches the surface. And guess what? We have another. Let's really have a conversation about political extremism and terrorism. Let's continue to expose the terrorist left. Today's conservative victim, Vivek Ramaswamy, we got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks. So a New Hampshire man was just arrested for threatening to take the life of presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy at a campaign stop. Take a look at this news segment.
Breaking news right off the top here at noon on a Monday. A New Hampshire man has been charged in connection with sending threatening text messages in which he allegedly said he would kill presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy at a campaign event scheduled for today in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. 30-year-old Tyler Anderson is set to face a judge this afternoon. Prosecutors say Anderson also threatened to kill people attending the event. CBS News has obtained a statement from this Ramaswamy campaign saying, "We are grateful to law enforcement for their swiftness and professionalism in handling this matter and pray for the safety of all Americans." So we have a crew on the way to New Hampshire. We will have updates on this story throughout the day on CBS News Boston.
I don't really know what to say. I think the clip pretty much speaks for itself, folks. It's another one to add to the list. How many of these types of examples are we going to cover? Well, most likely a whole lot more, because this right here, these events, these situations, they are a direct result of Democrat rhetoric. This is what happens when you push and promote hyperbolic nonsense. This is what happens post-debate when you're Van Jones at CNN and you say this kind of thing.
And the smug, condescending way that he just spews this poison out is very, very dangerous, because he won't stop Trump, but he's going to outlive Trump by about 50 years. And you're watching the rise of an American demagogue that is a very, very despicable person. Yeah. And I was shaking listening to him talk, because a lot of people don't know that is one step away from Nazi propaganda coming out of his mouth.
But the good thing, Van,
This is what happens when you make everything life or death, when you claim that your political opponents, as Van Jones claimed, are, quote, demagogues, fascists, threats to democracy, threats to human rights and LGBTQ rights and minority rights. When you make those claims with absolutely no basis in fact, when you promote hyperbolic, fear-mongering nonsense about your opponents, this is the result. And yes, the result is terrorism, folks. That's what it is. It's the same thing that you see with radical extremism across the globe. In the Middle East, for instance, you have desperate people, you have susceptible people, in many cases mentally ill people, and then you have those who want to take advantage, who promote hyperbolic rhetoric about an existential threat that must be destroyed, blah, blah, blah. You get it. They are our enemies, infidels. It's the type of emotional messaging that can convince people to become zealots, extremists, especially if those people suffer from some sort of delusion or paranoid schizophrenia, any type of mental illness. You know, that is what that type of rhetoric takes advantage of. It mobilizes those individuals to commit heinous acts against your opponents. It mobilizes those individuals to do something like strap a vest to their chest and commit an atrocious act. It's the same kind of thing. It's the exact same kind of thing. When you yell through the TV speaker every single day, existential threat, literally Hitler, fascism, they want to bring us back, they want to put you back in chains. When you traffic in that kind of rhetoric, you produce extremism. And that is exactly what we are seeing on the modern left. We are seeing a group of individuals who condone and justify violence every time. I mean, for Pete's sakes, people were defending Mr. 100% Antifa, Michael Reynolds, back in 2020. Antifa regularly yells, bash the fash, and what they mean by fash is, well, literally any conservative person or Christian person. That's a direct call to violence. That's a justification of violence. When leftoids don't get what they want, what do? They commit acts of violence. They burn things down. They intimidate through mob presence. That is what we see on a daily basis. A further radicalization. You know, the hypocrisy is absolutely clear. It's incredibly ironic. Those MAGA extremists exist in any MAGA environment, and you are surrounded by law-abiding citizens, tax-paying citizens, good people, hardworking people, blue-collar workers, moms and dads, beautiful, devout, religious families and people. I haven't seen any extremism, yet the left will tell you that that is the side that is extreme. Mom and pop. Mostly boomers, mostly people above the age of 30, 35. You know, people who have their stuff together, contributing members of society. That's what I see. Well, travel in any far leftist environment, and you have black-clad Antifa militants, the same kind of people defending and supporting Hamas terrorism, and the same kind of people bringing that same kind of ideology here, domestically. The same kind of people who would justify violence in the United States just like they justify horrific acts of terrorism in the Middle East. Because it's somehow freedom fighters battling oppression. There is no frickin' oppression. You live in the freest, most prosperous, best nation on earth in human history. Yet these people have become so delusional, so paranoid, that they've convinced themselves that regular mom and pop, you know, Joe and Mary from the street corner who worked jobs their entire lives, retired in their 60s, put their kids through school, people who have become so insane and so delusional that they see, you know, the white picket fence typical American people and they perceive demons. It's insane. It is insanity. It is brainwash. But most importantly, it's emotional propaganda that is wielded as a weapon. In other words, it's political extremism 101. And that is the left today. That is the left. That's why we constantly see these kinds of threats. That's why we constantly see these absolute lunatics being arrested. And trust me when I tell you, we will continue to see this because the left isn't done. The left right now is fighting some sort of revolutionary crusade against some, you know, perceived boogeyman that lives in their head. They see that boogeyman everywhere. You know, I mean, of all people, Larry Elder supposedly was the black face of white supremacy. It's like that scene from the movie Scream where the guy goes, I see dead people. That's every leftoid, except it's, I see Adolf Hitler literally everywhere. It's absolutely insane. And the facts here, the dynamics here, are pretty much, I'd argue, as clear as day. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you understand the point that I was making here. Hopefully it's clear and hopefully it makes sense. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Of course, you know that we would love to have you here. Thanks for watching, friends, and I will see you on the next one.